Hi there, this is George from ApproveThis, and today we're going to be looking at how to build a form approval workflow. So, an approval workflow that kicks off with a form. There's a few different types of workflows that we can use, and to kick off a new workflow to start building when we hit this little plus button here on the approval workflow menu. And the first thing we'll do is we'll give this workflow a name. And maybe this workflow will be travel reimbursements. So, we'll put travel reimbursements here. And again, we want to make a form flow and we'll hit create. So we create a new form workflow. Two things happen. The first thing is that a URL is created. So in this instance, our branded URL, dindermufflin.approvethis.com/travel reimbursements is made. And so just to kick things off, we'll go ahead and click on that and see that there's a form there with a headline and a description with our logo at the top and a submit button. So that's our starting point here. I'm going to open two tabs so we can go back and forth between those two. We've got our dashboard here, which has some statistics that'll populate as folks start to submit requests, as well as an edit form button and an edit workflow button. So let's go ahead and click edit form for now, and we'll see the two form fields that were created for us, that headline and a description. Now I can delete those if I want. I can move them up and down. For now, I'll just rename them. So I can just edit directly in line here. And so I will call this first one maybe the expense title, what the expense is actually for. And you'll see when I click on the field, I get this pop-up menu that has a few different options depending on what the context is. So for just a normal text field, I can make it required. Now, if I go down to this text box field, which is there by default, I can also set maybe the max length, how many characters so people don't type too much. Maybe I want to do that as well. In this case, I'll just set both things to required. And maybe I'll take this and call it business need or purpose. It could be kind of vague. Maybe people don't know what I mean by that. So what I can also do on each of these fields is I can add some additional help text. So I can say maybe, please enter the reason for the expense or purpose of the trip. We're just making a very basic form today, so I'm just going to go ahead and add two more fields here just to show you quickly what is possible with ApproveThis. I'm going to add a drop-down field here, and we'll call that department. And now I've added a drop-down field, and inside a drop-down field, I can add a variety of options that the user can choose from. Each one's separated by a line. So we'll go over here to this context menu on the right that's popped up, and we'll just add a couple departments. Just for example, maybe one department is finance, maybe another department is operations, maybe sales, and IT, maybe the last one. We'll make that field required. And then most expenses, most of the time we need a receipt. So I'll open the files tab here and I'll go ahead and drag in a file upload. And now we have a file upload. We'll go ahead and drag that to the bottom. Now with a file upload, we'll make that not required just because sometimes maybe people don't have a receipt. So some of these fields are required, like expense title, business need, and department, indicated by the red dot there because we've toggled on the required button. And we'll leave the receipt upload blank. The other thing I'll call your attention to here, which we won't dive into today, but we'll give you a quick preview, is the data extractor. So a data extractor can take any type of file and process that file into fields on the approval request. So we could, for example, select receipt or invoice, health insurance card, an ID document, a contract. There's a variety of different options of ways that you can extract data from any of the fields we upload. For now, we'll leave that blank and we will use this form as is. And so as we've gone, I'm going to go back to the live form here. All these things have saved. And of course, you can see that we have the title, the business purpose, the department with the options we set, and a way to upload the file. All right. So now that we've done our form here, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the travel reimbursements workflow by clicking the breadcrumbs up at the top. And we've created our form. Let's go ahead and edit the workflow itself by hitting the Edit Workflow button. And there's a variety of options here in the menu on the left, but for now, I want to focus on actually creating the approval flow that this workflow will need to go through. So each step can be created by clicking on this little plus button here. Then I just select who needs to approve it. So here at Dinder Mufflin, let's say that the first person who needs to approve it is actually the requester's manager. And this is available when you set up a workflow that uses an email address to identify someone, or you require people to log in. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But the first thing I want to do is set up so that the first approver is the requesting user's manager. The second thing I'll do is I'll create another step. And maybe this step, I want several people to be able to approve. And so that's what group approvals are for. So I'll flip this little toggle here, and that gives me the ability to look at my approval groups. And I actually want anyone from accounting to be my second approver on this. And so accounting is a group of 3 users, and now anyone in that group can approve that request. Now, these operate sequentially. So the first approver will be the manager, and then after the manager approves, of course, it will flow to accounting. Now, maybe I need the branch manager to approve, and I can decide whether or not the branch manager should approve at the same time as accounting or after accounting. So in this instance, maybe I'll have them do it at the same time as accounting just to keep the process moving quickly. And so we'll have Michael Scott make that approval. So now when, because we've made these side by side, after the manager hits approve, it'll go to this group and the Michael Scott approval step as well. But maybe Michael doesn't need to approve all the time. In that instance, I can select conditions here on the right-hand side, and maybe I just need to have Michael approve things that are in the sales department. So I can select department, and then I can say it's equal to sales. Now, Michael will only get approvals inside the sales, uh, inside the sales items, inside the sales department, excuse me, and everything else will be automatically approved. So won't need that last step. Approval required when department equals sales. The last step we need to take is to publish this workflow. So we will hit the published toggle here and hit save. And now that workflow is ready to go. So we can enter an expense title, and maybe it's flight to Scranton to visit the Scranton branch. And it's the sales team, and I don't have a receipt. And I can just hit submit, and that will go ahead and submit the approval process and kick off all of the workflows necessary to get that request approved. Two things you'll notice after I submit that request. The first thing is I've created a request ID, and that is a persistent ID. And that means that this URL can always be checked uh, for the status of the request. And the reason that's helpful is because if you have maybe contractors who are using an approval process, or folks who are external to your company, maybe folks who don't have an approve this login, they can always check and see the status of their item with only having this URL. And of course, they also get notifications via email, but the URL is also there. We can go now and look at the request that this workflow created. So let's go back to our approval flows and the travel reimbursement flow that we just created. And we can see that this request is ready to go and waiting for approvers. Now, there's one thing I'll draw your attention to, and that's that this request is untitled. And why is it untitled? Well, it's untitled because we haven't set a name for it. So we'll go back into Edit Workflow, go to Fields, and there's a request title here. And maybe I'll set that to expense title. Now, whenever a request comes in, the request title will be set to the expense title that the user sets. The other option I have here is a requester identification field. And so, in instances where the user that is submitting the approval request doesn't have an approve this login, you can set an email field and identify the user through their email address or their phone number. And this will make sure that all of the requests that a single user sends in are tracked together and identifiable in that way. So those are the two fields that are very useful. We also have some quick permissions. You can make sure that approvers are logged in when they approve things. You can make sure that you can restrict who can see approvals and comments around approvals. You can make people log in. And then finally, back here in settings, you can enable comments on an approval workflow. That is a quick overview of setting up a relatively simple approval process inside Approve This. We are always happy to help at Approve This. You can reach out to us at ApproveThis, support at ApproveThis.com, or reach out to me directly at George at ApproveThis.com. Thank you so much.